Hey guys, if you clicked on the thumbnail, you're in the right place. So in this video, I'm going to make the argument, the moral case for the existence of Bitcoin and how Bitcoin can lead us into world peace. Now, I was going to make a whole new video, but what I wanted to do something a little different, do something interesting, is that I actually did a video 5 years ago making the moral case for Bitcoin, but I never really posted it on YouTube. So what I want to do now is I want to play that video. I want to see how my arguments still hold up now 5 years later, because I did this video about 5 years ago, give or take, and add my commentary and see if anything has changed since then. I think it's pretty interesting to hear myself back then versus how I feel about it now. So let's begin. What this video is going to be about is not necessarily the investment portion of it. I mean, there's a lot of influencers and experts out there that talk about the money making aspect of crypto. What I want to do in this video is explain to you guys through history and also through philosophy why cryptocurrency is the future. Not only is it the future, but also the future if you want to have any type of freedom for the people, right? Because I do believe that cryptocurrency is the true currency of the people. It doesn't belong to the government. It's not created by the government. It's currency that's literally created. It was created by the people for the people, which no one can controls or can print out of thin air. So before we get into it, let's ask the question of what is money? What is money? People are very bad when it comes to understanding or deciphering what is money. People think that money in and of itself, right, the paper bag that you have from the government, is of value. I'll tell you right now, the money that you have in your pockets, the money that you have in the bank is worthless, right? Money in and of itself has no value. Money is simply a tool that we use in order to exchange value, but money in and of itself has no value. So we take a look at the history of the United States. The currency that the United States used when it first came into creation was coins, right? They use coins. They use either gold coins or silver coins. So it had intrinsic value, right? The value was right there within the coin, right? It's gold, silver. So in 1834, the United States fixed the price of gold at $20.67 per ounce. And that was valid until 1933. So what the United States did later on was they just gave you a paperback. So they say, yeah, this paper says that you're good to go because it's backed up by gold. What happened later on, and it happens throughout history, is that when the government gets involved, you start getting what's known fiat currency, right? So fiat currency pretty much has no value. The only value that it has is because the government tells you that it's valuable. So you get fiat currency. We started going into fiat currency after the gold standard was completely eliminated. The gold standard was eliminated in August 15th, 1971. This was when President Nixon announced that we will no longer be converting dollars into gold. One thing I want to add right now is that once you go into fiat currency, which is absolutely worthless, fiat currency is just the government saying this currency has value because trust me, bro. Right? That's fiat currency, completely worthless. The money in your pocket is completely worthless, has no intrinsic value. But what happens is that removes any constraints from the government. So now the government can just have these endless wars. So are you tired of the fucking government giving money to Ukraine, Israel, to have these proxy wars? Well, you can't do that with Bitcoin. It's only 21 million Bitcoin. And there's even less than that because a lot of people lose their password, loses their keys. So Bitcoin is deflationary. So it gains more value as time progresses. So you cannot have wars. There is no such thing as having these large scale wars with Bitcoin, right? The reason that the government can have these large scale wars that last
all these years and you have all these millions of people now dying is because of fiat currency, because they can just print money out of nowhere, right? Print money out of nowhere. You can't do that with Bitcoin. So let's say that the government wanted to go to war and they convince you, don't you think it's a good idea to go after Russia? Isn't Russia bad? And you agree and say, well, yeah, Russia is bad. Yeah, they are. Fuck them. Fuck Russia, right? Well, the government's going to tell you, well, would you be happy letting go of $20,000, $10,000 so we can continue this war? Well, it's a little different now. Now that you have to personally invest and put some skin in the game, you're most likely not going to do it. Your person not going to do it. So imagine that. With Bitcoin, you can't have these large scale wars. Wars will be close to non-existent at the way they currently exist, because wars are very expensive to maintain. So wars as they currently exist won't be a thing if we adopt Bitcoin.
Right? So from 1971, the American dollar was backed up by nothing. Right? Completely worthless. It became fiat currency. Now, when you look at history, fiat currency, every civilization that is controlled or accumulates fiat currency tends to disintegrate, tends to be destroyed. And the average civilization, if you look at history, only lasts 340 years. That's the average lifespan of a civilization. Currently, right now, the U.S. is only 244 years old. So it's right over there, right? We're right there. So being that the case, the American dollar right now, as it stands, is completely worthless and backed up by anything. Because at least when you had the gold standard, the paper money that you had, it was backed up by gold. Now it's completely worthless. It's just fiat currency. Now, when you look at civilizations and you compare it, right? One that I love to compare is Rome. If you look at Rome,
another thing also that's very interesting about Rome and societies tend to collapse. Prior to the collapse, you tend to have a increase in degeneracy, right? So Rome, as they increase with degeneracy, they tend to decay as a society, because when there's more sexual constraint and you're more conservative, you tend to expand as a civilization, because your energy is focused on the expansion and development of your society. When there's degeneracy and you're focusing on just your internal desires at the moment, just meeting those desires, I mean, how far can you go as a society?
I mean, they collapsed. I mean, they started having a welfare state, started taxing started creating high taxes. But that's neither here or there. We're not going to talk about. That's probably a topic for another video. What I found interesting is that they tax people so much that you had their Romans, right? People that lived in Rome, that they were leaving Rome to avoid the taxes. So it came to the point that Rome could not sustain their army. So what they did was they started hiring out people outside of Rome, right? So they started hiring the people that were known as barbarians. The reason that they were called barbarians is because when they spoke, they had a bar. They kind of spoke like that. So that's how they got the name barbarians, right? Now, the Roman Empire did not have money, right? They not actually had gold or silver to pay the barbarians. So what they did was they started taking the little bit of gold that they had and a little bit of silver that they had, and they would mix it with worthless metal, and they would pay the barbarians with that. But eventually, the barbarians, they started saying, they looked at the money and said, "Wait, hold on, man. This shit ain't real gold. This shit ain't real silver. This isn't real money." And then eventually, when the barbarians came knocking, right, to collect on the bills that were due, obviously the Roman Empire couldn't pay it, and then the barbarians took over and Rome collapsed. Is very similar to what's happening right now. Right now, look at the United States. The United States right now, I think the last amount of money that they printed was $1.7 trillion, right? So they printed
very similar to what happened in Rome, right? Start debasing their value. Once you remove the gold standard and there's no constraint as far as what you can what you can print into existence as far as currency. This is why people can't handle power. Power corrupts, and it's been proven that people can handle power. And when you put the power of currency in the hands of a small group of individuals, the government, the Federal Reserve, ultimately you're going to get corruption. Can you imagine a business for board members that could print out their own money? They'll never go out of business. They can make mistakes after mistakes after mistakes because they could just fall back on just printing more money to absorb all that. But what's keeping it afloat is the printing.
Out of thin air. 1.1 I think it's 1.5 or 1.7 trillion dollars. That's just insane. After the gold standard was removed, the government just went into a printing frenzy, right? And so all the money that they print out, they use it also to go into war. So they print the money, and not only the money that they tax the citizens with, but also the money that they use to print. They use that print money, that money that created out of thin air, to go into war. The reason that you see Bitcoin accumulating all the value that it has is because the government keeps printing money. The government is going to proceed and keep doing what they do. That's the government. The government's not going to stop printing. Mean that the government is not going to stop printing and misutilize their assets. The American dollar is gonna keep losing value. It's inedible. It's just there's no. If you just look at history is proven record that anytime you create fiat currency, your civilization will collapse. Well, and hopefully in this case it won't, because now we have cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin on top. So every time that the government prints out more money, right, mismanages the money that they create, Bitcoin is just going to keep gaining value. So, I mean, if you look at it at a theoretical point, right, within the next 5 to 10 years, you can say theoretically, right, that Bitcoin could hit $1 million within the next 5 to 10 years. It's very possible, very doable, because the American dollar is just going to keep losing value. The best investment that you can actually make currently right now is in cryptocurrency, right? Cryptocurrency, and the number one cryptocurrency that you can invest in, again, in my opinion, would be Bitcoin. And I hear people saying, well, I don't have money to invest in Bitcoin. I mean, did you see the price of Bitcoin? Bitcoin's like $55,000 or $60,000. It's real simple. Monthly, you probably blow between $100 to $500 a month. Just take $100 to $500 a month and put it into Bitcoin every month. And your money, again, do your own research, right? Do your own research. This is not financial advice, but if you were to invest $500,
I'll take that back. This is financial advice. You better be off. There's nothing. There has been nothing that brought more ROI than Bitcoin. I mean, name another asset in the last 13, 14 years that has been continuously growing at the scale that Bitcoin has.
$100 a month, right? Between $100 to $500 a month on Bitcoin. Imagine what's going to happen to your money within the next 5 to 10 years, right? So this is why when people tell me that cryptocurrency has no intrinsic value, I mean, come on, man. Does fiat currency have any value? The reason that Bitcoin, the price just keeps fluctuating and it seems unstable is because fiat currency is unstable with the amount of printing that's going on, right? That's why.
Correct. Bitcoin is not unstable. What's unstable is the environment around it. It's unstable and unsustainable, which is why you have Bitcoin fluctuating. And the volatility that it has is because of our financial environment being what it is. Back then, though, again, I did this video about 4 years ago. Back then, I was a bit more optimistic, but now, really thinking about it, what politician do you know is going to come into office and say, you know what, guys, we can't afford none of this shit, right? We can't afford none of this shit. So all this spending got to stop. All these government programs got to stop. We're broke. With $33, $34 trillion in debt, this has to stop. What politician is going to have a platform to be elected for that? It's not going to happen. Politicians care only about keeping their power, and they only care about the next election, which is the next 2 or 3 years, 4 years max. Then they don't care what happens long term, as long as they keep their power and stay in power is what they care about. So I'm a bit less optimistic as far as things changing as I was back then. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe tell me in the comments if you disagree with me.
Right now, I believe that with the next 5 to 10 years, theoretically, Bitcoin could hit $1 million. So your best bet will be to invest in Bitcoin long term, not the short term, the long term. Because if you have your money sitting somewhere in the bank or not doing anything, your best hedge against inflation, the safest place that you can park your money for inflation is in Bitcoin. I mean, look at what's happening right now. Right now, the currency has always been controlled by the government. Now we truly have a currency, right?
So I'll give an example for this, right? I definitely didn't speak about it when I made that video. So let's talk about real estate, for example. So a lot of people say, well, I'd rather invest in real estate or I'd rather put my money in gold. So let's look at both of those things. So if you look at gold, for example, you need to pay for the storage. So for gold, you need to pay for storage to maintain it. And also to travel and move it around is very inefficient. And also to purchase things is very inefficient, to use gold as a mechanism for that. Now with Bitcoin, on the other hand, very easy, convenient to travel with it. You can go to different places. Everything is stored digitally on a wallet. And it retains its value because the value is in the system itself. I think it was one transaction that I saw, but don't quote me on this. I think it was about maybe $230 million transaction. And the fee on that was like 10 cents, something ridiculous like that, when you use Bitcoin on the Lightning network. Because the thing is, imagine wanting to transfer money and you go to a bank. So for example, I transferred $10,000 last year. I had to go to the bank, show my ID. I had to pay a fee to transfer it. With Bitcoin, everything was digitally, instant, peer-to-peer, open source, right? Anyone could take a look at it. The transaction is publicly on the blockchain, even though my identity is hidden, right? Because my identity is just the numbers on the blockchain. The transaction is saved on the blockchain, so everything is digitally and 100% pure transparency. What's more transparent than Bitcoin in the blockchain? I would love to know, unless you're gonna make the argument that you think our government is transparent. I don't think so. So that's one thing, right? So you have that, and now the thing with real estate is that with real estate you can't, because the thing is, if you buy a piece of Manhattan is very valuable to the people around Manhattan or visiting the area. But that piece of property in Manhattan is probably not going to be too valuable for someone, I don't know, in Colombia or somewhere else in the world, right? Or somewhere in London, or whatever the case is. This is not going to be that valuable. And also, you have to think about that you're at the mercy of your local governments. And so in New York City, I'm from New York City. In New York City, they passed a law during the pandemic where landlords couldn't evict tenants that did not pay rent. Landlords were forced by the government, right? Because what is a law? A law is just an opinion with a gun. That is all law is. A law, just because a law is created doesn't make it moral. It was legal to own slaves at one point. All right, so something that's a law because it's legal. Just because it's legal to do doesn't make it moral, right? Legality does not translate to morality. So that's one thing, right? So the government passes a law that you cannot evict tenants that are not paying rent. So as a landlord, you were stuck and you were forced to keep tenants housed while you were still required to pay bills and pay mortgage and all this, right? It's just complete insanity. Now with Bitcoin, again, it's valuable the same way that Bitcoin can be valuable in someone to Manhattan. Bitcoin can be valuable to someone in Colombia, Spain, London. And not only that, if government were to pass a law, increasing the taxes on Bitcoin, or putting a tax on Bitcoin, or making it illegal, well, it's digital. I'll just take my Bitcoin and leave. So currently right now we have 1.7 billion people that are unbanked. Now with Bitcoin, everyone that owns a cell phone, now you are your own bank. As long as you have a cell phone, you have the needs to store Bitcoin, and you become your own bank. And of course, being your own bank also comes with responsibilities. Of course, you're going to be responsible for remembering your password, your keys to your Bitcoin. But ultimately, that's what true freedom is, right? True freedom comes also with responsibility.
Cannot be manipulated, cannot be controlled, and cannot be created out of thin air, right? There's only a set amount of Bitcoin. You cannot create more Bitcoin. I mean, you can mine for Bitcoin, but there's only a set amount that can be created, and then it's done. You can never create Bitcoin again. It cannot be controlled. It cannot be manipulated. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of those things. If you guys want to look that up, you can look that up yourself. But those are one of the reasons why I invest in cryptocurrency. I invest in cryptocurrency not only because I believe that it's the future, but also looking at it. If you simply look at history, fiat currency fails, always fails. Any currency that is controlled by the government and backed up by nothing but just wishes, right, and hopes is going to fail. The best. I mean, because a lot of people say, well, gold is valuable.
Fiat currency backed up by nothing but hopes and dreams. The fiat currency completely worthless. It only has value because the government tells you it has value. It's literally a trust me, bro. It has value because trust me, bro. That's fiat currency. The money in your pockets is completely worthless. When people start realizing that, and people truly understand how real money works, how value works. I don't know. Bitcoin has the greatest possibility to be the next world currency. I truly believe that. What's more reliable than that? Versus having a Federal Reserve that always has to prop up the economy through interest, through debt. Everything's running on debt. I mean, we're broke. We can't afford to pay these $33 trillion. And we say that we care about the children, but every new child born is born into $67,000 or $77,000 in debt. But we care about the children. No, this is unsustainable. Math is math. The system it's not a matter of if the system is going to collapse. It's just a matter of when the system is going to collapse. Our best safe haven, our best safety net is Bitcoin.
And why is Bitcoin worth more than gold? Can I travel? Imagine traveling with a bag of gold somewhere. Come on, like gold is gold, but cryptocurrency is not digital gold, right? Because it's not the same thing. I cannot travel with a bag of gold. I mean, I could travel with a bag of gold, but I'm just making myself a target versus traveling around with crypto. It's completely different. So guys, that's pretty much it. I
will take that back from what I said. I said in this video about 4 or 5 years ago that gold is Bitcoin's not digital gold. I would say it is. You could consider it digital gold because it's a store of value. It retains its value. So one Bitcoin can be cut up into 100 million Satoshis. I think it's going to be more of everyone's going to be using Satoshis to pay for transactions and whatnot. I mean, that's my opinion. That's what I believe. But who knows what the future may hold. Because me personally, I've never thought in my lifetime that we would see a currency that's completely open source, a currency that's decentralized, a currency that's not under control under a small group of people, or a currency that could be created out of thin air or manipulated. I never thought in my lifetime that I would see that. So to have Bitcoin, who knows what the future can hold? And that's the beauty of humanity, of who creations like these. It's like I just sit back in astonishment of the things that we created, because the creator of Bitcoin, he created it after the 2008 financial collapse, because a lot of people have the misconception that the financial collapse happened because of the banks, which is true. Yes, the banks caused it, but they only caused it because the government allowed it, because they were giving loans out to houses in order to meet quotas that the government was putting up, right, for minorities and stuff like that didn't qualify for them. So the government said, don't do that. They remove all the qualifications, and people respond to incentives. We operate on incentives. Being that the case that we operate on incentives, you have an incentive now just to give out these loans, these mortgages to people, even though you know they can't fucking afford it. What the fuck you think is going to happen? Right? And again, this is because of the government.
Leave the video at that. That is the reason why I invest in cryptocurrency in general, not just Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the number one thing to invest in for sure, long term. But that's why I'm a huge believer in cryptocurrency, and why cryptocurrency is the future.
It's one of the greatest evils is the fact that you can work for 10, 20 years of labor at a job or your own business, and then to have your hard labor in the next 20 or 30 years be worthless because you have a group of people, government, and the Federal Reserve devaluing and removing the value of your earned income, the currency. That is robbery, right? That is evil, to leave yourself at the mercy of these people. With Bitcoin, that stops. That ends. It's very transparent, open source. Everyone can see what's going on. Instead of the money that you work for, right? Instead of the currency that you work for losing its value, it retains. Not only does it retain its value, but it grows in value as years pass. Right? Your work pays off at the end. And you're not subject to the whims of other people controlling. You don't leave your destiny in the hands of these politicians and the banks. This is why Bitcoin is so important. No one should have that type of power. Power corrupts absolutely. And to put the power of the creation of currency in the hands of people, it's too much power for humans to have. When we operate on incentives, you're going to lead. You're going to go down the road of corruption, putting power of the currency in somebody's hands. That's why the power of the currency shouldn't be in no one's hands. That's why Bitcoin and the blockchain is perfect. The government will just print, it goes brrr, and then you just print money. Can't do that with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the closest thing. If we adopt Bitcoin, Bitcoin is the closest thing that will give us and lead us into world peace.